Hey everyone, welcome to my first long form video on this channel. Pretty exciting. I have like shorts, but this is like the first official actual video on this channel. So that's cool. Just a kind of a disclaimer, this is already going to be kind of a weird video to start this off. I started this doll like 2 years ago, and I don't think the footage is great because most of the clips were shot in portrait mode. Not really sure why. I think my thought process was that I was just gonna make like TikToks or like reels for Instagram. I didn't really think I was planning on making like a long form video, but I decided, hey, you know, this is kind of like the first doll sculpture I've ever made, and I kind of wanted to document it, so here we are. I'm also not using a script at all. I'm just gonna kind of yap this whole time. So yeah, a lot of my process I did off camera. As you will see, it's just going to be a lot of me showing my progress thus far, which kind of sucks. I wish I had actually like done more of the actual work on camera, but you live and you learn. I've started doing that now with the like projects I'm working on currently. So but yeah, so just to kind of actually talk about the doll I'm working on. This is one of my best friends' D&D characters. She is a tiefling artificer. Her name's Valeria. She was in a campaign that was set in hell, and I really wasn't sure I could achieve some things about her design and doll form. First of all, my friend is not an artist, so all of the references of her have just kind of been like random Pinterest things, just kind of like throughout the years if I ever asked for something, because like I'm also an illustrator, so like I tend to draw like my D&D characters and like my friends' D&D characters. So I would ask for things and he'd kind of send me reference photos here and there. But one of the biggest parts of her design is that she wears this like big trench coat. And because I decided to make this doll more of like a sculpture, because like my friend, he's not really a doll person, so I figured I'd make him more of like a figurine as opposed to like an actual posable doll. Yeah, so I'm trying to do this in one take. I also have ADHD and it's super late at night, so if I lose my train of thought, I apologize in advance. But yeah, like I was saying, so I wasn't sure how I wanted to do her coat with clay, because again, this is like my first doll statue sort of project. I've only really used Super Sculpey like once in college, like for like a project, and I didn't really sculpt like clothes for that project. So yeah, I enjoy working with clay, but I'm still learning. So I wasn't sure how I was gonna do something like a coat, like a trench coat. So I kind of, and this kind of goes back to like my friend isn't an artist. He like wasn't able to draw a reference for me. I kind of just made her like design as I went. I sketched a couple things beforehand, but I was kind of winging it, to be honest. And I just kind of was creating her like her clothing how I imagined it would look under her coat. And As you can see, I was just kind of going at it piece by piece. After this stage, I started to add like things like buckles, like just tiny little buckles with more clay, like belts and things like that. Found it really fun. Honestly, I was really enjoying it. But yeah, so that was kind of a challenge. But aside from like the whole coat thing not really working out, I was pretty happy with how she was going. She posed a lot of challenges. And again, because I started this like 2 years ago, I feel like I'm missing some footage. I'm not really sure exactly. You kind of missed like the very beginning where I prepped the head and everything like that. I ended up shrinking the head, who belongs to a Venus Monster High doll, as you might have been able to tell. And the reason why the head is so pale is because like I soaked it in acetone to shrink it a bit, and the acetone like leached out the green dye from the vinyl. So that's why the head looks so like pale. But yeah, so I did that, and that was the reason why I was shaving down the neck at the very beginning, was because the head had shrunk and it wasn't fitting over the neck anymore. So I basically just had to use my like Dremel tool and just kind of like sand down the neck. And at this point in the video, I was painting. Again, this is kind of just like me showing the steps that I'm on. I had varnished her at this point, and I had so much trouble like matching her body paint to her head for some reason, because so for her head, I primed it with like a spray primer. I believe it wasn't Citadel. I think it was like Army Painter. I think that's what it's called. Which I'm not a fan of. As you can see here, it left a lot of texture that I ended up having to like sand away and like repriming. I think it might have just been user error, but I also think that primer is just very like thick when it sprays on. I use Citadel now, and I think it's much better. It goes on smoother. But yeah, as you could see, I was using pan pastels to create her purple skin, whereas I was using acrylics for her body. And it was really frustrating because like I would match them perfectly, and then either the acrylic paint would dry too dark, or once I was varnishing it, the paint would start to like come off. And I show that later on in the video, where like I varnish it and some of the paint like starts to come off and it looks streaky, and I have no idea why I was doing that. But yeah, so as you can see, she now has hair. I didn't have any footage of me gluing all the hair wefts on, but basically I made a bunch of like wefts from 100% acrylic yarn, and brushed it out, cut it, glued it to her head. I think I just used like PVA glue. And here I'm just giving her a haircut because she she's a cool edgy chick. She's got the bob going on with the side shave. Oh yeah, and then for that I also made a Okay, it took me an embarrassingly long time to remember the word flocking. But that's what I did. I made some flocking with the same acrylic yarn and I just chopped it up into teeny tiny pieces and glued that onto her side shave. So that's how I did that. And so after I'm done like trimming it and using an eyebrow razor to kind of make the edges less blunt and more like natural looking, here I am repainting the body for the 50th time. And yeah, it's the bane of my existence was repainting the body and matching the skin. But as you can see here, the arms were repainted and her neck was not. Her neck looks a lot darker. Yeah, I don't even know what was going on with that. I think in the future I'm maybe just not gonna use two different mediums for like a skin tone. I'll probably just either do the pan pastels or the acrylic paint. But yeah, so here I am attaching her tail and just using super glue. And I actually used a different clay for her tail. For the rest of the sculpting on her, I used epoxy sculpt. For her tail, I actually used Cos clay. And I did that because one, I didn't want it to be super heavy and like make her unbalanced. And two, Cos clay is cool because when you bake it, it retains some flexibility. It's kind of like a rubber more than like a clay. So when I made her tail, I used an armature wire, and after I had done like the sculpting, put all of like the individual scales on there, did like the tip of the tail, and you know, I finished it, baked it, painted it, I could still kind of pose it. So I was able to kind of like twist the tail into like the pose that I wanted, and then I painted it, and I put a little like jump ring in there to kind of be like a piercing because I felt like she'd have that. And then like the little like black top part of the tail is supposed to be like a small opening in her pants, like where, you know, like the tail would come out of. And I did that just to kind of make the transition from like tail to body a little bit more seamless so that there was no like gaping. And I thought it just made sense. It was like, it's one of those things where like, you don't really think about how characters with tails like put pants on or like how that works. So it's just a little detail that I thought was cool. And then here I am attaching a little potion that I made with the sculpture. I kind of combined clay with actual pleather when it came to doing things like the belts. Most of the belts are made of clay, but like the ones that are wrapped around like the potion are made of like pleather and a little like jump ring. This was like a dagger that I made using like a little jewelry dagger, and I painted it, made it look a little bit tarnished, added some twine, made the little scabbard. And then I ended up not even using it because it kind of cluttered her design up. I felt like it kind of just took away too much focus, and it made her look a little too busy. And yeah, so I'm gonna just end up using that for another project. So instead I made another little belt loop with that pleather, and but instead it was empty, kind of implying that the potion she has in her hand came from that spot. At this point I am just kind of trying to like add some little things to the bottom of the stand. So here is a little hammer and anvil I got from one of the Lord of the Rings like miniverse balls. I think they come in like all of them, to be honest. And I wanted to fit both the anvil and the hammer, but I didn't really have the space for it, so I just ended up putting the hammer. And then here you can see the varnish and the paint. If anybody knows why that happens, please let me know. Please let me know in the comments why that happens. I would love to know. Here I am styling her hair with just like a toothbrush and some water. I was kind of trying to avoid using watered down PVA glue like some people use, just because I really liked how fluffy her hair was, and I didn't want it to get like, I don't know, crunchy or like lose some of the volume. I really just kind of wanted to stick to water. And yeah, trying to make her little broken horn peek out. And with all that being said, Valeria is finally done. Despite there being things I would do differently now, I am honestly so happy with how she turned out in the end. Especially considering she's technically either my second or third finished custom doll. I kind of started a lot at once and I never finished them. So yeah, but I think she's actually like my second doll I've done like a full face up on, which is pretty cool. The last half of this video was just me rushing to get her finished because I was actually planning on meeting up with my friends. They were visiting from New York, and we met up in Orlando, and I was able to give them their dolls, and it was really nice, so I'm glad that I was able to finish them in time. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Be sure to stick around because I have another video that should be coming out soon, along with a few dolls that I'm almost finished with. And, you know, tell me about your D&D characters in the comment section below. I love hearing about them. D&D is one of my special interests, so tell me. Tell me all about them. Tell me about your campaigns. And yes, my fellow DMs, this applies to you too. Okay, bye.